Welcome back to Media 7. Rachel Lang has been writing and editing New Zealand TV scripts since the 1980s. She went through the apprenticeship of Shortland Street and with James Griffin created the cultural juggernaut that is Outrageous Fortune. This week, her new series, written with Gavin Strawn and Jason Daniel, launched on TV1. It's called This Is Not My Life.
Becky, don't play with me. What time is it now? Quickly, not long till school. Here you are. Oh, sweetheart.
Dad? Are you going to take me to soccer?
Christian, not now. Darling, you go back to bed. I'll make you a cup of tea. Alec!
Well, Rachel, that was quite creepy. You managed to make quite a few ostensibly comforting things look creepy in that series. Was that part of the plan?
Yeah, that was definitely part of the plan. And in fact, when we were talking about the series, because it does owe its origins to shows like The Prisoner and those kinds of things, we were talking about what's creepy about now, and this is a show that's all about freedom of choice, apparently, rather than being repressive. And so we wanted to have some fun with a lot of ideas about New Zealand today and eco-friendliness and just people wanting to have a perfect life.
Is it easier to have that fun now, you know, and do your own ideas without being messed with now that you have the undisputed success of Outrageous Fortune?
I think first series are always difficult, first series of anything. I do think Outrageous Fortune has definitely changed the landscape in the same way that Shortland Street did in its day. I do think it's created greater acceptance for people watching New Zealand shows and actually thinking they might be all right. So yeah, it's changed things in that way.
That is quite a big change, isn't it? And particularly with this last series of Outrageous, people were genuinely excited about it and looking forward to it, whereas I think there was a time maybe when we thought it was kind of a duty to watch New Zealand drama on TV.
Well, it was a duty and a painful one sometimes, but I think we've turned a corner on that now, and I've really noticed that with journalists talking to me about This Is Not My Life, and I remember them talking to me about Mercy Peake and being almost quite rude and treating it as if, oh, what are you going to do to us now? Oh, why do we have to watch this crap? Rather than thinking that it actually might be entertaining. And people would come up to me in the street, I remember after Mercy Peake was on, and go, it was quite good, in a tone of shock. And Outrageous really kind of wiped that away, really sort of removed that prejudice. As a result, I was terrified before Go Girls went on air, because I was thinking, well, you know, you can't do that twice.
And yeah, Go Girls has been notable, I have to say, for the opinions of curmudgeonly reviewers.
Yeah, we sort of knew we would get that because it is very light and positive and. Yeah, I thought people would be snobby about it, and they were, but the audience aren't. Yeah.
Now, you, along with all the people you've worked with on these series, came through, as I said, the Shortland Street apprenticeship. What did that do for you?
It taught me a lot about writing stories quickly and cheaply, which is New Zealand drama, it's cheap. It also gave me an amazing training in coming up with story and working in different genres. And actually that's been the great thing, is that a lot of writers specialise in only one thing, but because it's New Zealand, we can do different things. And also I feel like on Shortland Street I got the chance to play around with murder stories and comedy stories, and each week was always a smorgasbord of different possibilities, and obviously romance was important. So I feel like that was an amazing training ground, and also if you made a mistake, which we sometimes did, you'd see it on air and go, oh God.
I was going to ask you about that. that it was an opportunity to make your mistakes.
Oh,
and learn
absolutely. But you know, another bus would be along next week, so you could actually go, oh, okay, that's not a wise thing to do. So it was a fantastic training ground in experimenting with story and trying things out.
Were there any memorable mistakes?
Oh, yes, there was actually. That was Daryl. When Daryl returned, the audience will be too young for this, but when Daryl returned...
Daryl, he was evil.
Yeah, he was evil, but we returned him and we made his twin good. And the audience just kept sat there going, he's going to be bad, he's going to be bad. And we get, no, he's good, he's good. And we so disappointed the audience. And the other big, huge learning curve was when we killed our first character and we sent him off cheaply into the distance. That was Tom, who went to the dairy. Again, people won't remember. But he went off to the dairy and we went, we just won't say what happened. And the audience got so pissed off with us because we weren't explaining it. And
was it that they didn't get the joke there?
They kind of got the joke, but you know, you have to give an ending to your stories. You have to supply an explanation, and we had great story material, so eventually we had to supply the answers. But for a while, we just doled out different alternatives, and we just didn't tell them what the answer was.
Now, another thing that's changed since Outrageous is that got licensed for production in Britain and the US. Yeah. Does that change the way you develop a new series? Do you have the idea that it might be licensed in your head?
No. No. I mean, if it's got to work here, and that's... I mean, I'm not working on those shows, so all I care about is here. I think good ideas travel, and obviously if it rates here, then people are more interested in an idea. But I must say that This Is Not My Life has had very enthusiastic responses from overseas already, even though it hasn't been on television here, because people really like the idea and think it's really fresh.
Well, just finally and briefly, you still happy in TV? No hankerings to make films or anything like that?
No. No. I think films are very, very hard. And a lot of the films I watch, I don't know why people made them. And I also really... It sounds rude. But also, what I love about television is that I get to play with characters for a much longer period. If you look at 108 hours of Outrageous Fortune, it's been an amazing opportunity to develop characters and take them in all sorts of great directions. And it's so much more fun than just having an hour and a half to play with one person, beginning, middle and end. So, I mean, maybe one day I will write a film, but I feel like the bar is really high for film, and you've got to do something that's pretty incredible in that hour and a half. And television is just such a great medium for exploring people. Well,
best of luck with the new one. I'm really genuinely impressed with what I've seen so far.
Thank you.
So I hope it goes well for you.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Rachel Lang. It's time now for Sarah Daniels' Take Two, which looks at the fortunes of a media iconoclast.
Christopher Hitchens, essayist, columnist, author, anti-theist, prodigious boozer and fagger, has managed to offend pretty much anyone and everyone.
Well, thank you so much for that suspiciously grudging introduction.
People like JFK.
He's a high-risk narcissist.
Mother Teresa.
I would describe Mother Teresa as a fraud, a fanatic, and a fundamentalist.
Bill Clinton.
He just is what he is. He's a horrible primate.
Jimmy Carter.
A pious, born-again creep.
All of womankind.
What has been the achievement of my essay? It's been to make sexier women try harder to amuse me. Well, that was my whole plan to start off with.
The Pope.
But if you can call yourself a priest of any kind, or a high priest, as the Pope is, then you don't have to answer any questions about the rape and torture of children.
And God.
God is not great. It's one of those books with a title where you really say to yourself, what's he driving at?
He is particularly poetic about those whom God chooses as his servants.
For a vulgar fraud and crook like the Reverend Falwell, it's an obligation to say what one thinks about him, or be left off the air and have people like yourselves broadcasting only piety.
Hitchens may have spoken, but God, it seems, has answered. Last month, when Hitch called off promotions for his book, Hitch 22, so he could get treatment for cancer of the esophagus...
How are you, sir?
It's a bit early to say.
The believers responded. If he survives the cancer, he may well expire under the avalanche of hate mail.
He'd be glad to know that my prayers are not with him.
If you don't die an excruciatingly painful death, I suspect you'll have months of incredible and terrible agony.
And here's my particular favourite.
Does anyone really care about any journalist?
Ouch. It's not all bile and brimstone. This post on Vanity Fair offers practical advice.
Try garlic and cloves.
For Hitchens, the hardcore contrarian, all this falls neatly into the cause he champions, free speech. and it might even just sharpen his resolve.
For now, screw you. I'm not late, mate.
And the book, Hitch 22, a memoir, is in the shops right now. And that's our show for this week. Thanks to Jeremy Rees, Virginia Larson, Ben Gracewood and Rachel Lang, and thank you for watching. Here's something else to look at. Your first look at the TVNZ iPad app. Not quite ready yet. I think Apple are holding it up, but should be with you soon. We'll be back with Media 7 at the same time next week. Until then, goodbye.